Urban Therapy with Sun 752, and this is your daily go getimism number 819 for December 30th, 2016. Tonight I want to talk to y'all about when you have to second guess something. What do you do when you second guess something? First of all, the definition of second guessing something is when you are reconsidering a decision that you have made. Sometimes we make promises that we intend to keep, but we really don't think is a good idea. Sometimes we say that we're going to do things that we really don't think that we should do after we think about them. We obligate ourselves. We dedicate ourselves. We join things. And we realize later on after the smoke clears, after we mull it over for a little while, after we learn some more things about the decision that we've made, we get to thinking like, I don't know if I should have done that. But sometimes we're so hell bent on keeping our word to someone, and we get, because in all the mob movies and things like that, where they say all you have in this world is your word and your reputation and your word, whatever, all of those kind of stuff. We believe that kind of stuff, and sometimes we allow one line quotes to govern our lives. You hear people do it all the time. They quote things, and it's easy to give a quote. It's just hard to live by the quote, because the quote alone doesn't take into consideration any other extenuating circumstances of a situation. Now, I would like to say that when you make a promise to somebody, I do believe that you should keep it. You should keep a promise. Your word is necessary to keep, and you want to make sure that your integrity is intact. You don't want people looking at you like you're wishy-washy, or that you go back on your word, or that you say things that aren't true, or make promises that you can't keep. You don't want to be known as a person who does that. Even though some people who do that get away with it all the time, but it's not a good thing for you to gamble on. Because if you're a firm believer in keeping your word and making sure that someone else's word is kept concerning you, then you want to conduct yourself accordingly. So you don't want to be going back on your word. Consistency. A lot of it has to do with consistency. When you're dealing with people, it's the same thing as when you're dealing with animals and when you're dealing with children. And this is what I mean by that. You get respect and obedience from children and animals when you're consistent. Children, that's how children learn. They learn by observing, and if what they observe is consistent across the board and there's a level of trust there, they're more likely to fall in line. I just say all the time. And we know when children get into their rebellious stages, especially when they become teenagers, they start to make their own decisions. They want to they start feeling themselves. They want to sow their wild oats, all that kind of stuff, But as you are raising them, from the time that they are born up until the time when they might start becoming rebellious, you have to be consistent. If you're inconsistent, especially if you're on drugs or you drink too much, and children know your temperament from when you get high or when you get drunk, and so they know that if you are an accommodating drinker, which means that you make promises when you're under the influence of alcohol, the kids will make sure that they wait until you get nice and toasty, get lit up and all of that, and then they'll ask you for what they want. And then they'll say, well, you the one who told me that I could have it last night. And there's nothing you can do, because you put your children in a position where they can play you. But it's all your fault. Now you have to keep promises that you made under the influence of alcohol. And more than likely, the reason that you won't second guess it or change the direction or or go back on what you on your word is because then you'll have to admit that you made the decision under the influence of alcohol, which may show that you have a problem. And most parents don't want to do that. Most adults, they don't want to do that. So rather than to admit that they have a problem, then they'll go along with some shit that they made under the influence of alcohol. But for some of us, we can second guess something that we've done, and we can weigh the cost of following through with it or putting a stop to it. Like if you're dealing with somebody, let's say you've invested into some type of business, and after your initial investment, they keep coming back to you for more and more money, more and more funding, more and more and more and more and more, when that's not what they were supposed to do. So they keep telling you, okay, for an example, let's say you were starting a business or building a house. Let's say you were fixing up a house that you intended to put on the market. You want to flip it and sell it, or should I say, fix it up and flip it. And by flip, you mean you want to sell it, and hopefully quickly. So you're dealing with these contractors, and they keep coming back to you for more and more money, more and more money. Now you see that the money that you're going to sell the property for is going to hardly help you to break even for what you spent getting the property together. So you have to make a decision. Do I stop right here and sell right here so I can at least turn a little bit of profit, or at least not lose money by going forward? Or do I go ahead and finish the project, and I'll just have to say a lesson learned later when I have basically lost equity and revenue by continuing to keep putting money into this project? I don't see anything wrong with you pulling back in that situation, but you might not want to do that because you might be acting like you're a big shot. People do it all the time. Ego will make you keep your promises. That's for sure. Y'all hear what I just said? Ego will make you keep your promises, no matter how dumb they are. You'll mess around and keep your promises if you don't want people running around talking about you ain't this, you ain't that. You don't want people talking bad about you. You'll go through and finish some dumb shit just so nobody will talk about you. See, we do a lot of ridiculous things when we're learning and we're growing. But giving second thoughts about something, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with making a decision to go in a different direction after you find out something about a project that's not going to be beneficial for you, or a situation that's not going to help you out in any kind of way? Why would you go ahead and follow through with that, knowing that it's going to put you in a hole? And you may have so much going on that you can't afford to be in a hole right now. Why would you do that? But we do it, and we do it often enough where it has become a problem. But we ain't got to do that. You do not have to follow through with the decision that you made if the decision that you made was a poor decision, or if you made the decision under duress, or if you made the decision with somebody putting a gun to your head. And there are times when we make a decision based on the fact that somebody has a gun to our head, or in our face, or at our gut, or in our back. Sometimes thinking about it, giving a second thought, is not really an option. But for most situations, it is an option. And there are a lot of times when we should choose that option. You don't have to play yourself just because you said that you was going to play yourself. You ain't got to do that. Good things happen to those who wait. Great things happen to those who grind. And anything can happen to those who go for theirs. So go hard, go for yours, and remember, listen, when you second guess something, when you give something a second thought, you don't have to follow through just because you said you would. That would be like you said like somebody asking to marry you, and you really don't want to get married, but you said yes because in the heat of the moment, like maybe they asked you in a room full of crowd of people, like they asked you in a big crowd, like let's say you're at a sporting event or something like that, or at a family gathering, a function, and they present and somebody presents you this ring and asks you to, well anyway, they propose marriage to you in front of a bunch of people. You probably not gonna be like no. You probably gonna say yes, of course I would. Knowing damn well you're like, oh God, what was I thinking? Well, I'll fix it later. And that would be like going through with that marriage, even though you know that you're not ready to do that. So you know that the marriage is on a shaky foundation, a very weak foundation, and it has almost 0% chance of writing its own shit. And you know it. But you want to keep your word. See, it's foolishness. Foolishness. And the last thing I want to say is, like, when you're dealing with children, you want to get as much practice of only obligating yourself to do the things that you can do and that you want to do, because children will get on you about that. If you've ever promised a child that they were going to go to an amusement park the next day or a couple of days later, and you think you're going to come up with a plan to take their mind off of it when the time comes, you ain't doing nothing but fooling yourself. But children are representative of everybody else out there in the population that we think is not paying that close attention, but they are. The Daily Go Getimism show is every single day, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Calling numbers, area code 319-527-6199. blogtalkradio.com/Sun752. The Urban Therapy with Sun Take the Fall event will not be tomorrow. It looks like we're not going to have one in December 2016. I have to attend my cousin's funeral tomorrow, my beloved cousin Charles, and so, you know, we either can postpone the date and have 2 walks in January. I'm open to that. Y'all let me know though, because a lot of y'all not gonna come out in the wintertime anyway. But for those who are, we'll be ready. We can come up with something. All right. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.